going on, Seth? Man, thanks for the good comment. I love Gunnersville. I haven't been there in a while. I've been traveling too much. What's going on, everybody? This is Gene Jensen. It's time for another Friday Night Live. I'm going to let a bunch of people jump on before I start running off at the mouth. I just want to say hi to everybody. Thanks for joining us. David T, thanks, man. How are you doing today? Man, we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about tonight. I am freaking excited about what's going on. So, what's up, Joni? Oh, yeah. Jack, how you doing, man? Another Jack Rabbit. Hey, Preston. Jennifer Miller, how you doing? How are you? I am whooped today. Actually, I'm not too whooped. I just sat in the house and waited for guys to replace my air conditioner all day long. So my office is an absolute disaster because the heat pump and the unit's right behind that wall right now. So they cleaned up after themselves, but I had to move everything out of the way. So it's a pretty big disaster. What's going on, Patrick and Ryan? What's going on? Gonna hold off on your questions for just a bit. You guys know the beginning of it. I usually do business. I want to talk a little bit about, actually, I want to talk quite a bit about the changes that are going on with bass fishing right now. I'm absolutely excited about it. That's why the thumbnail was what it is. That's why the name of the video is what it is, because this is major news. This is not something just fly-by-night minor. So I really want to talk about it. So, man, Inshore Yacker asked me how much weight have I lost. 24 pounds, I believe. I think it's about 24. My goal is to get down to 200. I'm going to do it slowly because I'm working out every morning at about 4 o'clock. And yeah, Chad Hoover challenged me to a boxing match in February. I just want to knock him out. I mean, why not? I mean, he's getting a little big in the head. I know he's got a big old friggin' nugget on the top of his shoulders, but yeah, makes a big old target. That'll be a lot of fun. Y'all are gonna see some pretty cool videos about that. But I accepted this challenge, and we're gonna have a boxing match sometime around February. Hopefully it's not too close to the Classic because I don't want to show up at the expo all beat up, and I don't want him to either. So anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm training for that. I'm exercising. I'm doing the keto diet, which is what he did. I've done it before, but I just never did it with intermittent fasting. And I'm down to where I only have to eat 1 meal a day, and I'm good. I don't eat anything between 12 noon and 11 o'clock the next morning. So it is what it is. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. A couple of announcements. First of all, Sunday, if you guys live anywhere around the Atlanta area, anywhere within a drive of the Atlanta area, come to Reformation Brewery in Woodstock, Georgia. We're having a big get-together. It's a launch party for the brand new RS-117 from Bonafide. But the cool thing is, we're having a raffle there, actually door prizes. $1 a ticket. You can buy as many tickets as you want. And we've got estimated somewhere around $5,000 to $6,000 worth of prizes that are being given away. Yak Attack's giving away a bunch of stuff. I'm giving away a couple of reels, some shirts, some hats, anything that I can dig up in the barn. I mean, I'm giving away a bunch of stuff. Chad Hoover's bringing Yeti stuff to give away, KBF stuff to give away. Luther Cyphers is going to be there, the owner of Bonafide. We're going to have a bunch of folks. It's just going to be a good time. Award-winning barbecue. One of my buddy Scott's friends is a multi-champion barbecuer, and he's doing a bunch of stuff. So that's one of the things. It's at Reformation Brewery from 12 noon to 4 o'clock on Sunday. And it's a cool brewery. We went and toured the place the other day. It is awesome. It's in downtown Woodstock. Get there early. Parking is all over the street. It's all public parking. What else is going on? Let's see. The winner of this week's $25 gift card to Flukemastr.com is, like I said, well, I'll talk about it in a minute, is Thomas Lassiter of Talladega, Alabama. He'll receive a $25 gift card. We'll shoot him an email. And the way you enter that is you go on Flukemastr.com and you basically log in. Just start a profile. That's all it is. Don't cost you a dime. And we pick from that list every week. Actually, I don't pick. My website guy's daughter picks, so you guys can't influence her for nothing. But they win a $25 gift card every week. Let's see. what other cool things are happening? Let's see. Fishing shirt of the month is still going on. This shirt on my website, flukemastr.com. We're going to change the sleeve a little bit. It says Flukemastr on the sleeve, but we're going to put a little bit of white in there so you can see a little bit better. But freaking cool shirt, man. I love this thing. Of course, when I ordered it, I was one size larger, so it's a little bit big on me. I'm back down to an extra large instead of a 2X. Let's see. What's going on? Let's talk about what's going on in the bass fishing world. I've waited long enough. I got enough people on where we really need to talk about this. I've known about this since just before ICAST. There's always been a rumor that Major League Fishing was going to start doing something bigger. They were going to start their own tour. And I'm a huge fan of Major League Fishing. I can almost guarantee I was one of the first ones to watch the very first episode on Extended Cast because I was at work and it was like 30 seconds after they launched it. I was watching it and I've been a fan and a binge watcher ever since. So I love Major League Fishing. But a lot of the things, it leaves a lot of questions. Why is everybody jumping? I mean, Kevin Van Dam just a few minutes ago, like 35, 40 minutes ago, announced that he is leaving bass and going to Major League Fishing. Holy crap. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but that's huge. Why is this happening? And I've really, to know where I get my opinion, I've been covering bass fishing and BASS in particular since 2006. I was with BassResource.com. I can't believe I forgot it. I was with Bass Resource, and I would go to the Classic Expo, and I'd interview these pros, and I'd get to know them, and I'm friends with a few of them, and I talk to them about what's going on. And the simple fact is, it takes a lot of money for those guys to be able to fish the tournaments. They have to make a lot of money. They have to get a lot of money from their sponsors. Their daddy has to be rich, and they have to have a job or own a business or own multiple businesses like Boyd Duckett did. You have to have a ton of money to be able to do it. What that does is that excludes a lot of people, and a lot of people can't make it, not because they're awesome fishermen, but because they can't generate the kind of money that is required to fish those things. Who was I talking to? I can't remember. Anyway, one of the FLW guys, he says, if I win the FLW championship, the money I get from winning the championship, being FLW champion, I can barely pay for next year. That's it. He can barely pay for next year, okay? And he's a single dad. I was like, are you kidding me? He's living in like a small little house in the whole 9 yards. And I'm just like, that's just crazy that these guys are at the top of their game and the highest level in bass fishing, and they weren't making any money for nothing. And it was just 75% of them are living paycheck to paycheck. So let me kind of give you an example, and I'll shut up about it. James Elam announced 3 hours ago that he was going, and he pegged my thought, and he says flashback to 2014 BASS Elite event on Delaware River. This was a make or break tournament for me. I was dead broke, and I had nothing left. If I didn't make a check at this tournament, I wouldn't be where I am today. Hopefully some of the positive changes that we are seeing happen in the sport will help out the young aspiring anglers like myself. He nailed it. I mean, that's the biggest thing is those younger guys that are coming out of college, if they don't already have financial backing from their parents or from somewhere, they can't make it. And it just stinks for them. And we've got a lot of college kids that are awesome, and then they're coming up and they're doing good in the college world, and they can't get into BASS because it's too expensive. So what has this change to MLF done? It's forced BASS to lower their entry fees, to increase their payouts, and to reduce their field, which is, I think, it's a great change. Unfortunately, it took something like Major League Fishing to get them to change because they weren't going to. They were making a ton of money. The sponsors of BASS were making a ton of money, and they were doing it all on the backs of these pros. That's my opinion. That's how I feel about it. I think it's great for the future of bass fishing. I think it will bring bass fishing to a whole new level. FLW is the most popular outdoor show in history on the channels that they are on. So I love it, and I think it's a great opportunity for for those of you who are aspiring tournament anglers. I'm not one, but to jump in. If one of my sons wanted to fish tournaments, man, and try to go as far as he could, it makes me believe that he has a chance now. Because beforehand, even when I wanted to fish tournaments, I knew I couldn't. I didn't have that chance because I didn't have that financial backing. I wasn't rich. I wasn't, it was a wealthy man's sport. Thank you to MLF for making this awesome. So that's what it is, and it's sad to see it come to that, but I'm glad it is. I can't wait to see what the future brings us next year. And there's some great sticks that have already committed, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more. Gerald Swindle committed today. Mike McClellan did. I know Cam Van Dam did, and a bunch of them over the next few days. I check it like once an hour to see who's committed next, and I'm excited for it. So that's what it is. On to Q&A. If you guys got any questions about anything, just let me know, and we'll jump on it. Let's see. Yeah, that's a big problem about needing new boats. That's for sure. That's another good thing about Major League Fishing. They're requiring, or they allow people to use their own boats, so which is pretty cool. So let's see. Hey, that's pretty cool. Jekyll, thanks for that comment. Sorry, I should have read it out loud. But the focus of bass fishing is changing as well. Look at what YouTube has shown the bass fishing world. Look at what you've done for us. That's true. I mean, YouTube has changed a lot of stuff in bass fishing. But again, a lot of guys on YouTube aren't tournament anglers. It's hard to do both. It's hard to do YouTube and a tournament and fish tournaments without a team. Scott Martin can do it because he pays a photographer. His photographer edits for him. His photographer is his driver. I mean, he's able to do it because he has the money to pay people to do it for him, do the hard work for him, and he can go fish and concentrate on the video. So it's hard to give and take. So yeah, let's see. SM Outdoors. I have just a regular river style fishing boat. Would I look like an idiot fishing a tournament without a bass boat? I fished my first 5 or 6 or 7 pot tournaments in a 14-foot John boat with an 8-horse tiller motor on the back. And I fished against FLW pros. They had wrap boats. I knew them. They fished the FLW tour, and it was a pot tournament, local pot tournament. And that's when I realized I was a dang good fisherman, because I did pretty good in those tournaments. I just didn't go very far. I just stayed and fished, and fished, key structure and key things around that area. But that was fun. Don't feel like an idiot. Just go do it. It's a lot of fun, especially when you start taking checks. If they start donating money to your way because you outfished them. It's so much fun, man. Oh, I miss those days. Let's see. I have learned a ton from you on YouTube. Thank you for what you do for us, low budget fishermen, Gene. That's awesome, Brendan. Appreciate it, man. Let's see. U.S. Air Force Jay Kephart. With an overfished lake, what do you recommend? I have kayaks and even a DNR and even DNR recommend us to fish there. An overfished lake. I always say go light, go small. Small baits, light lures. Throw a Ned rig or a Ned rig on light line. And on a spinning rod, man, and fish 3 or 4 different colors. A green pumpkin. The color that Z-Man calls the deal is my favorite color. It's got a pearl bottom, green pumpkin top, and just go fish and have fun. And fish either really slow or really fast, and you should be able to get at least a few to bite. Let's see, Gene, fishing Toyota Big Bucks tournament on Table Rock the last week of October. Planning on working a lot of jerk baits and Kitex. Any lure choices you would go with? Your experiences on that lake? I've never fished it, but that time of the year, for what things are going on, I would not leave out on a lipless crankbait. A rattle trap in chrome and blue or chrome and black is what I would be looking, especially on Table Rock. see, Fluke, when, Jacob Mullis, when or what water temp do they start coming up and chunking up for the fall? Is it too early to call? I usually start looking for fall patterns in the low 70s. When it gets below 75 degrees, the water temperature, I start looking in the mouths of creeks and major creeks, and looking for concentrations of bait fish, and then I go fish around the shallower water. Usually you can find fish concentrated in that area. So, Gene, what do you think of the fake black spinning combo from 13 Fishing? It's a $150 combo. I've been comparing it to the 150 Abu Garcia Hero X combo. FB combo is a bit better. Let's see. Got a video coming soon. You know what? That combo, I know the reel, I know the rod. I've never messed around with the combo itself. The rod's excellent. The reel is really good for. I mean, it's got aluminum housing. I mean, it's just a really good reel for the price. I think it's the K. The Creed K is, I think, the one they use. It. Don't quote me on that, but that's usually what they use. So, Josie, man, thanks for the $5. What does this movement really mean for regular fishermen, bass to MFL? For regular fishermen, the biggest thing I like is that you're going to see more major league fishing. You're going to see more stuff on TV. I'll give you a for instance, and don't quote me with these numbers because remember I'm dyslexic with numbers, but I think total hours of bass footage that were aired last year were like 3,000, I think. It was either 3,000 or 4,000 hours. Major League Fishing will air like 10,000 hours or 8,000 hours, some crazy amount of airing because they got tons of different things going on. Everybody wants to have them on there. I heard a rumor they're going to be on the Discovery Channel, the Discovery Channel. You're going to be able to see a lot more of them. It's going to bring more people into fishing. Wives love to watch this show with their husband because it's exciting. It's actually covering the fish being caught, not, and I love Mark Zona, but not studio work that talks about the few people that are in the lead. It's just what it is. It's on the water, really cool, live action, and they take care of the fish. It's catch, weigh them, and release them in the water immediately. So they don't bump them get them on the carpet. They get penalized if they do that. They really do take care of their fish. So that's what I'm kind of excited about. It's just going to be really cool to watch. And the other cool thing is they allow the anglers to talk a lot while they're being filmed. So the anglers tell you what techniques they're using. They explain a lot of stuff. Ike Kennelly is great at it on the water. He explains everything that he's doing, and you actually learn a whole lot more on that show than you do on anything else. I mean, anything else. It's great, man. That's what I love about it. I'll go back and watch the old ones just to try to figure more stuff out. So, Heather Young, happy late birthday. Go Dogs. Thanks, Shane. Gene, what do you recommend as the best 13 frog fishing rod? The one that I designed for him, I'm very partial. I love short frog rods, and I designed a 6-foot 5-inch heavy action or heavy power frog rod. It is designed. It's got a soft tip to it, so it'll sling a light frog, and I'll spool the whole stinking reel off if I cast it good and hard. 65-pound braid, but it is the Muse Black. It's the $180 rod, and it is awesome. I actually have just got my 4th one, I believe, or my 3rd one. And it's also a really good duck skipping rod. If you throw like a 1/4 to 3/8 ounce arky head, you can skip that sucker all the way up underneath the dock, and it's got enough power to get them out. So, yep, that's the one I recommend. And yes, I'm very partial. What would you say the best thing to do to cover water and figure out a pattern for bank fishermen for the present time of year? I don't have a boat just yet and just need a couple of tips for the bank. 2 things. Anything you can work fast, but the 2 things that popped in my head was a spinnerbait because it doesn't snag up very easy, and if you just keep it moving, it's not going to get snagged in bushes. And something like a fluke or a weightless worm. Something you can fish a little bit slower, it's not going to get hung up that easy, and you just jerk it around and really get some reaction strikes. Hunter Nixon, thanks for the $1.99, man. Appreciate it. Will rain push bass shallow due to muddy water? Yes. Muddy water will always push bass shallow because they have to see what they're where they're hanging out. They got to see something or they feel uncomfortable. So the muddier the water, the shallower they're going to get. And then I start pitching to cover that I can see shallow, a stump or a log, or there was a fence post in the last muddy lake I fished. There was a fence post in the middle of the lake about 15 yards off the bank, and I flipped to that fence post and I caught 5 fish in 5 casts off that one post. So yeah, definitely, it's going to push them shallow. It's going to push them tight to cover. Gene, lipless cranks other than finicky bass, what other scenarios would you prefer silent rather than 2-tap or others? I like silent in the early spring when it's really cold, when the water temperature is still in the low 50s, low to mid 50s. The other time is when I'm ripping it through grass. I really don't need a lot of noise if they're not very active. They're not hitting a rattle bait. And they're not hitting it hard. I'm just getting light bumps and stuff like that. I'll switch to a silent one. A lot of times they'll take it. So, man, you guys are awesome. Thanks for the donations. Austin Clark, New Hampshire, this time of year, I can't find fish. Headed out tomorrow morning. What do you do the night before preparing for a new lake? Preparing for a new lake, I usually go on Google Earth and I look for points and I look for grass edges, especially up north. I don't know about New Hampshire, but I know a lot of the lakes up north have grass, and I go to the outside edge of the grass line and I try to find where that grass reaches out the furthest into the lake, and I start fishing there. Then I work myself around. So, Josie Hernandez, doing any deer hunting this year? If so, where? Rifle, caliber, or bow? I'm going to deer hunt about 50 yards that direction. Maybe, no, it's about 60 yards that direction. I have a dozen deer that come out into my field every afternoon. Just been watching them from the front porch, and I'm going to bow hunt. I'm going to let my sons hunt them for the next few weeks. And then as soon as they get frustrated, I'm going to go out there and stick one. I've shot a lot of deer in my life, and I don't get to do it that much because I'm making YouTube videos about fishing. But if I had to put a number on, I've probably shot 165 deer in my life, and I used to be really good at it, and it would probably take me about 3 years to get back to being as good as I was. But yeah, I just go out in the yard and do it. I don't have anywhere else to go. Let's see. Any word on Bonafide pedal drive? Nope, no word at all. Gene, what is the best way to fish a current in a kayak? I'm in Maryland and the Susquehanna River. Run a kettlebell as my favorite river anchor. I have a 10-pound kettlebell I run off the front of my kayak, and I will stop and point upstream, and I'll fish that area, and then I'll crank it back up using the anchor wizard, and I'll go on down a little bit further, and I'll drop it, and just keep doing that until I find the fish. You got to anchor down in current. It's just the only way to do it. So if you ever get up around Athens, I have access to some good-sized private ponds with some studs in them. That'd be awesome, Shane. That would be awesome. Unfortunately, this fall I am booked solid, and it just happened like in 2 weeks period. I booked up the entire fall. I'm gonna be doing a lot of traveling again. Not something I really want to do, but it is what it is. Nate McPherson, Gene, what's the best way to fish a current? Oh, I already read that one. Sorry. Scott Miller, are you a fan of soft plastic swim baits? Yes. If so, which is your favorite, and how would you rig it? Jig head, belly weighted hook. I got 2 favorites. I love the Gambler Big Easy down in Florida. That's all I fish. I went through like 15 packages this year in 2 weeks. And I love the Rage Swimmer because it's just got a lot better action than a lot of the other ribbed swim baits. I rig them on a jig head, or I rig them on a weighted hook, and I usually fish them around cover or off of deep structure, really slow, bouncing them on the bottom. So Nate, thanks for the $10, man. Thanks for teaching me how to fish, Gene. Never had someone to do that for me, dude. That's why I'm here. I realized that when I first started YouTube, there was a lot of people like you and a lot of the kids that I taught in scouts that didn't have anybody to teach them how to fish. That's why I started the videos, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys for hanging on to me, hanging in tonight. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the thumb or hit the little bell so you get notifications. I don't know why they make it a two-step process now. It's stupid, but that's what you got to do. Do you fish Lake Hartwell at all? I have not in a very, very long time. Was not a good experience. It was a very tough lake to fish. Of course, I fished it in the middle of summertime, so that was probably the reason. But right now, I'd be throwing a drop shot and a Ned rig as deep as I could possibly fish them. Let's see. I'm a kayak fisherman. What is your idea of a muddy bottom lake? First choice of search bait. First choice would probably be for a muddy water lake would probably be a swim bait or a spinner bait or something that moving that I could get down close to the bottom or get into cover that's on the lake. So. Let's see. Thoughts on ultraviolence swim worm pegged weight? I do it all the time, mainly when I'm flipping. That's why probably one of my favorite flipping baits. That and the cutter worm. Um, it's I just love to flip those baits. They go into grass really easy. They usually get hit pretty good. I usually don't have a problem hooking up, and they tend to catch really big fish. I love the speed craw. Actually, I love the speed worm on a Carolina rig too. I caught one of my first really big bass on that years and years and years ago, and that's always been a confidence bait of mine. What's your thoughts on a piggyback fluke rig for this time of year? Piggyback fluke. I think you're talking about the double fluke rig. Um, I wouldn't fish it quite yet unless your water temperature is already in the low 70s, high 60s. That's when you should be able to get a lot more bites on it. So. JR is fishing. Rest in peace, bass. I don't think so. Everybody needs to continue to support bass and FLW. Major League Fishing just another avenue, but you see all these big names going that way. Just exciting time, man. I'm excited. Anyway, most versatile largemouth bass rig, I would say a Texas rig because there's so many different ways to rig it. You can peg it, flip it, punch it, swim it. Bounce it off the bottom, pitch it into cover, swim it in open water. It's just a regular Texas rig with a weight on it. There's so many different ways to do it. I call it the all-terrain lure. So, any thoughts on Major League Fishing and bass? If you haven't talked about it, I talked about it already, Robert. You have to wait till the end of this. Let me load this onto the YouTube channel and watch the first 10 minutes. I really dove into it, so you missed it. Hey man, break out that guitar and sing a sufficient song. Thanks, Jody Queen, man. Jody's one of my favorite people on this planet. What an artist, man, and he's a great kayak fisherman as well. I fished after work tonight, scored dinks, stoked. Link in Instagram. That's pretty cool. After 500 bad raps and curse words later, I finally got the pain in the butt FG knot down. That's awesome, Hunter. I told you it wasn't easy, dude. It's a hard knot, man. I got frustrated for a couple of days learning how to fish it, and I'm a knot geek. Woo! How long do we do this? 28 minutes. Good. We're gonna keep on rolling. What is a good bait for extremely finicky bass and extremely loose cover? I'm always going to flip like a half ounce to 3/4 ounce pegged Texas rig or a punch bait as we call it, or punch rig, and I'm going to flip something like a rage bug or a worm or something that when it gets through there, I can bounce it off the bottom, bring it back up to just below whatever that thing I punched through, and shake it. Let's see. Do you do much creek smallies fishing, and what's your favorite bait or lure? Creek smallies. I do it. It's not really creeks. It's more river smallmouth up in Tennessee. And my favorite lure is a Ned rig with a little bitty craw on it. And they're now making a craw. Z-Man's making a craw, and I'm not sponsored by Z-Man, but anyway, Z-Man's making a craw for their Ned rig. But I usually take a baby rage craw and bite a couple of sections off the tail and put it on there. That's my favorite smallmouth bait. I freaking slay them on that thing. Um, let's see. What's a good date for tannic water with a muddy? Oh, bait. What's a good bait for tannic water with a muddy bottom? Keep up the good work. I don't like to get anything on the bottom when it's got a muddy bottom. So no matter it's got tannic or not, tannic water is actually really clear. I love to fish white lures, and I'll fish a Carolina rig. It's the only thing I'll fish on the bottom. I'll swim a Ned rig. I'll swim a worm. I'll swim other things, spinner baits, white, green pumpkin, nothing that's clear. Now, what I'm saying is, if you hold it up to the sun, whether it's a soft plastic or anything else, try not to get anything clear, because some reason on tannic water, I've never been able to catch a fish on a bait you could see the sun through. So that's one of the biggest things. So anything other than that, you should be fine. What do you know about swim bait rigged with a chatterbait style blade? I've been doing it for a while. Rage made something called a rage blade, and I've got a bunch of those, throwing swim baits on them. It's okay. I mean, I'd rather throw a grub on there. I tend to have more success with a grub, but it also may have been the type of circumstances I was fishing it. What are your thoughts on the RS-117? Philip, there's going to be a launch party this Sunday. I'll be there. Chad Hoover will be there. A bunch of people there. We're doing giveaways and raffles and all kinds of cool stuff. But anyway, the 117, I've been in the prototype, or one of the prototypes, and it was really stable. As in stability, it was like halfway between the 127 and the 107. So it's more stable than the 107, because the 107 is a riverboat, and a little bit less stable than the 127. Just doesn't have a lot of storage for me. I've got camera gear, I've got fishing gear, I've got batteries for stuff, I've got all kinds of stuff that I have to put in the boat, and I have to have a big boat to be able to do that. But for those guys who are on a budget, $999, it's not a bad deal for what you're getting out of that kayak. And it's a great seat, not as high as the other seats, but it's still a great seat, very, very comfortable, and you should be really happy with it if that's within your budget. So, how do you tell the difference between a male and female bass? Cut them open. Unless you are fishing spawn and then you see them on the bed, you can tell which one's the male and which one's the female just because of how they act. Let me see. Donald, he cleared it up. He said, what I mean by loose is that you get a whole bunch of grass on your line without getting stuck, but just makes you lose action. I got you. Throw a what I call a mojo rig or a split shot rig. Pinch a little split shot about 6 inches above your worm. Use a spinning rod and a sweeping hook set, and use a little trick worm, a zoom trick worm about, they're about 7 inches long on a small hook, and you should be good. So, Kevin Dunlap, man, $50. You are awesome, dude. I really, really, really appreciate it. Especially since I just got my entire air conditioning replaced. It was not a fun day for me. Anyway, still. When are you coming back to New Jersey? Probably next year. I hope to get back up there, man. I was excited to fish up there, and then I screwed up my schedule. How do you target the different species of bass, largies, smallies, and spots? The way I can explain it as fast as I possibly can is largemouth are lazy, sit in the recliner and wait for their food to come to them. Spotted bass will stand up and chase their food, and chase them a long ways, and then they'll come back to wherever their chair is, but they're not sitting in the chair, they're standing up. Smallmouth will sit on the highway with the food trucks coming by and chase them as they're going down the highway, so the smallmouth get into the current and get right up next to the current, and that's what they do. So that's kind of how I explain it. They're just different attitudes. So you can fish faster for smallmouth and spots than you can for largemouth. Largemouth they want the food to come to them. They will run a little ways to get it sometimes, but usually they don't. Oh, Bucks Island, any update on your new Lumacraft? No. I need to call them this next week and figure out what's going on. When am I coming to Louisiana? I just saw that and I lost it. I am actually going to be there the end of October, I believe. We're doing an NRS photo shoot. Yes, I'm the model. Anyway, no, we got a bunch of the NRS team going down there. We're gonna shoot videos and content and stuff for NRS for the year. Not many videos on bass gender sex. Is it true that you can tell by fin color? No, not really. I have not heard that, and I know the number one warm water fisheries biologist on the planet, and he has never told me that. So I would guess that that's just a rumor. Do you think it's fish head spin time on Lanier? Yes. If so, what color and what kind of trailer? I always throw a white head, and I throw a white skinny dipper. I don't even know who makes it. Just look up skinny dipper swim bait. That's all. And I throw the small one, and it's probably the best thing on there. And a baby fluke, or a super fluke junior, whatever they call them. Let's see. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Sean, for the love. Y'all are awesome. Does scented soft plastics make a big difference? I believe it does. I use JJ's Magic all the time, mainly because I feel like it covers up any scent that the bass won't like my hands or any grease I might get on my hands or anything like that. That's usually the reason why I do it. So, Josie, man, thanks for the $5 again. What's your favorite fish to eat? And yeah, I got a new air conditioner installed at home. Let's just say the boat is gonna have to wait for another 5 years. Yeah, it's that ain't cheap. The heat pump, the outside air conditioner, everything on this half of the house had to be completely replaced. And needless to say, I'm gonna be broke for a while myself. Let's see. My favorite fish to eat freshwater is gonna be either walleye or crappie. And crappie around here, I fill my freezer every November, December, and I use it, and that's the only freshwater fish that I eat. I might eat some trout every once in a while, and then anything out of the salt water. I'm not picky. I will eat anything out of salt water. Local shop here in Athens is planning on getting the RS 117. My wife has her eye on one. Would that be a good kayak for a female who fishes but doesn't carry much gear? Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, you can carry a lot of gear in it. I just have a lot of boxes, and so there's not enough space for me between the seat in the back for my black pack and my camera box and my soft plastic box and just everything that I carry on the boat for a day of filming and fishing. There's not enough room. But man, if you're just a fisherman, it's got plenty of room. It's got that storage up front. It's got storage behind you. It's got I think it's got a little space for a 5-gallon bucket. At least the prototype did. I don't know if the production mold has it, but it'll be fine, man. It's a good kayak. You'll see more of it. I'll take a lot of pictures on Sunday, so follow me on Instagram if you're not going to be able to make it to the launch party in Woodstock, Georgia. But it's a sweet little ride. So let's see. Best catfishing tactics and timings. I am not a catfishman, Seth. I haven't fished for catfish on purpose since I was a teenager. Just haven't been not a fan of it. So, Jimmy, what's up, Tackle Junkie 81? One of my favorite people. Sean Pescatelli, thanks for joining us again, man. I always remember your name because it's the same last name as Noah, Kicking Their Bass TV. Do you still enjoy bass fishing in the winter? Yes, I do. Actually, even more so since I signed with NRS a year ago. They make some of the best anti-exposure suits on the market. So you'll see me in these crazy suits this winter, especially when I'm kayak fishing. And I'll talk a lot about being safe doing that and that kind of stuff. So. Let's see. When fishing a fluke weightless, thoughts on salt or no salt? It just depends on how fast you want it to sink. It has nothing to do with flavor. I usually go with salt. I love the the caffeine shad from Strike King. It's just got a ton of salt in it. It sinks really, really well. It casts a mile. It's got a lot of good action. So I guess you could say I prefer salt. Let's see. How can I get in contact with you about fishing lessons? I don't guide anymore. Most of the states that I fish in, it requires a license or some type of certification or a captain's license, and I have none of those. And I'd love to, man. I used to, back when I did it before I found out all the rules, that was one of my stress releases. I absolutely love taking people fishing, and I had to put a stop to it so I wouldn't get in trouble. Sorry, man. One of these days I might do it again. I might take, if YouTube ever slows down, I might do it again. So, why was number 8 fishing discontinued? Will they ever make rods again? They're actually making rods now. They changed their name to 1-3. Number 8 fishing was a sister company of 13 fishing. They basically just got rid of the name, merged it into 13 fishing, and called it 1-3. And the chrome, the fake chrome is what is the old blackout. Same blank, just different guides, different grips, and different reel seats. So they still make them, still the same price. So don't worry about that. Let's see. From the edge to, let's see. What part of Louisiana will you be in? Probably in Pack, Point of Shane, Louisiana is where we're probably going to be, at least for part of the time. I know we're going to be doing some bass fishing as well. Am I still sponsored by Bonafide? Yes, I am. Which model is an entry level model? The new RS-117, I wouldn't. It depends on your budget, but the RS-117 is a budget kayak. It's $99.99, and to be honest with you, and I haven't seen a production model because the production mold got to the factory like 2 days ago, and so the production one's going to be a lot lighter than the prototype that I paddled, but it's a really good kayak. It's super stable. You can stand up in it easy. It's one of those things that you will buy it and you will keep it for a long time. If you're new into kayak fishing, it's really it's worth the money for sure. Let's see. Do I fish in Rome? I live in Rome, so yeah, I fish here too. Any tips for buying your first John boat? I have no idea what to look for in a decent, cheap boat with some quality. Don't get the narrow ones because they get really tippy. I think mine was a 54 inch, if I remember correctly. It was a 54 60 inch, 14-foot John boat, and I had an 8-horse tiller on the back, and that's all I needed for a long time. And it was great. I bought it off a buddy for, I think, $1,200 or something. Watching from Fresno, California. Thanks, Hector, man. Can't miss Friday night with Gene. Keep teaching us how to fish and sharing your knowledge. You're awesome, man. I appreciate it. I'm 13 years old and a big fan. Thanks, Steve. I'm late. Is he fishing the MLS? Major League Fishing? No tackle fines. I'm not. I just wanted to give my opinion on it. So watch the 10 minutes, first 10 minutes of this video after I've gotten off and it's posted on my channel, and you'll see my opinion on it. I think it's great. Where can I fill out an application to work for the Flukemastr? Woo! I wish I had the money to hire people. Everybody that works for me right now is pretty much working for free. Always been scared of heavy stand-up kayaks. Hard to lift on my Jeep and on my own. Jekyll, I made a video about them 2 months ago on how to load your kayak on top of your vehicle by yourself. Go watch it, man. I just loaded 2 kayaks on top of my pickup truck by myself with no problem at all. And it explains it in great detail, and it's not that hard. It just takes a couple of straps. Chad Hoover says, Jeff said Chad Hoover has a good video on how to put it on an SUV. But yeah, but that's a little bitty, it was a short SUV. I picked on him for it. I said, dude, go get a big truck and load it on top of the big truck. That's what I used to do with a Hobie, okay? And I gave him a hard time about it, but you know, that's Chad. I'm proud of Chad, man. He's lost like a bunch of weight. I've lost 23 pounds. He's lost like 50 something. Of course, he was a big dude. He's got to come down to, we've got to both get down to 205 before we have the boxing match. So yes, I'm gonna knock him out. Is it easier to roof mount a kayak or trailer it? It's always easier to trailer it. When I'm carrying multiple kayaks, I have a double trailer that I love to haul in. It's a confab trailer, and I put 2 kayaks on it, and I put a couple of them on top of my truck. But yeah, I love my trailer. Let's see. Start making your drop shot weights again and sell me some. You know what's funny? I'm out of them. I got like 3 left in my terminal tackle box, and yeah, I gotta go in my barn and make some. It's just been too dead blasted hot. Um, let's see. What terminal tackle did you use on your redfish trip? I'm going to Jekyll Island. I use what's the jig head I use? The Z-Man Trout Eye is what I use, and I usually just use black with chartreuse tail, little paddle tails is my favorite color. I may change a little bit, do a copper or something like that, but that's it. Um, let's see, Jacob Wynn. I'm single, so I'm spending my Friday night hanging with a Fluke. Thanks, Fluke. It's appreciated. Nothing wrong with being single, bro. I don't miss those days though. What's your minimum set specs for a finesse spinning reel? I don't like anything less than a 2000 series or a size 20, depending on the brand. I use 3000 series Creed GTs because they're really really lightweight, and anything else I use a 2000 because I don't like heavy spinning reels. And then 8 pound test is the most I'll go with a finesse rod, a medium light action finesse rod. So. Scott Miller, when you knock out Chad Hoover, will he make up excuses? You know Chad Hoover. Oh, that's funny. What's the best cover to fish a chatterbait? Grass. Any lake that has grass in it, I love to fish a chatterbait in grass. So, what's the 2 rod sizes you recommend for a kayak? Trying to build up my arsenal. But I always fall back to 7-foot medium heavy fast. That's a good one. 7-foot medium heavy. Let me think. What's the other one I always have on there? I have a 7-foot medium heavy. I have a 7-foot 1-inch medium, and I use a somewhere around a 7 to 7.5 foot or 7 to 7.2 medium light action spinning rod. Those are the 3 I would start with. Be on Lanier at 6:30 a.m. tomorrow if you want someone else to pay for gas for once. I'm going to be at Lanier at 9 o'clock in the morning at the Olympic Park in Lanier. I'm giving a 2-hour kayak fishing seminar for a bunch of high school kids. So no, I'm not going to be fishing tomorrow. I gotta run my mouth tomorrow. Would you try a backyard bass pond like Bama? I'm actually in discussions with a tractor company to help me do that. I got the room, I got the water flow. As long as we keep having rain, just got to make sure that the soil will be able to hold it. Love the channel and love the fish, but bow season is in. Chasing the big deer now, man. I understand that, Jacob, completely. If my income and my living did not rely on me making videos, which I need to start making a lot more of, I'd be right there with you, hanging in a tree somewhere with my old stick and string. What is the best mid-dusk bait for bass in the man-made lake? Top water, anything top water. I love frogs and buzz baits for that time. 15 years old, big fan. Thanks, Jason Miller. Appreciate it, man. What's the biggest bass you caught, Gene? A 10-pound, 12-ounce largemouth in just outside of Auburn, Alabama, in a Hobie kayak. Matter of fact. So, and I caught another one, 10-pound, 4-ounce this early spring. Actually, winter for us, but it was spring down in Florida. I can't remember what kayak I was in, but I was in a kayak. Is the skeletonized Creed GT safe for bank fishing, or will it get gunked up with mud and dirt? It can get dirty. It's one of those. It's a reel that I spray off every time I get done bank fishing, but it's super light. It really is. Don't be afraid to get the K if you're worried about that. The K and I think it's the Creed X. They're aluminum. They're really really solid reels for the price. If you're worried about it getting gunked up. Square bill crankbaits, natural colors or bright colors, what kind of cover? All depends on the water clarity, how far the bass can see, whether I pick a natural color or I pick a bright color. I got a video about that I launched a few months ago about how to choose the right color, and I talked just about that. Grass really doesn't matter. It just depends on, depends on where the bass are. Watercolor determines what color baits I throw. Um, do I still get backlash? Yep, I do. Yep, we call them professional overruns when you get to that certain level where you feel like you know everything. We start calling them professional overruns. And no, I don't feel like I know everything. Coming back to Wisconsin soon. Yes, I ran into you at the Geneva boat launch. I will be in Wisconsin in just a few weeks, but it's going to be a media event, and I don't have a whole lot of information about it. All I know is somewhere up in Wisconsin at some resort place somewhere. Yeah, that's all I know. But you'll see pictures on Instagram while I'm up there. What made you want to teach the world to fish? That's a really good question. I had a bunch of Boy Scouts that wanted to learn how to fish. I worked weekends at a hospital. I was an X-ray tech for 20 years, and I couldn't teach them because I worked weekends and they went to school. So I started making videos when YouTube was about a year old, and I said, you know what? You guys watch my videos. I'll teach you how to fish. Well, it just kept growing, and I fell in love with the fact that I'm able to help you guys learn all the details that I had to learn on my own because I didn't have anybody to teach me. My dad's a trout fisherman. He did take me fishing. He's still my hero, but he wasn't a bass fisherman. So I had to teach myself using the internet, using anything I read. And I made videos just to make it easier on somebody else, on everybody else. And then I realized that I'm teaching a lot of people all over the world how to fish, and that's where that whole teaching the world to fish came from. I love this, man. I absolutely, if I could do it for an hour and a half without losing my voice, I would sit here and I would ramble off and answer these questions for an hour and a half. So, Flyover Bassin, thanks for the $2. You're awesome, man. I really appreciate it. Any pedal drive from Bonafide? No. I know you won't. I know you work for 13 Fishing, but what are your thoughts on the Shimano Corrado DC? I haven't used it yet. I've never been a fan of Shimano, mainly because whenever I pick up one of the reels, and this is for years and years, it never to me has felt like the amount of money they charged for it. It's never felt like the price point. That's the biggest thing. And so I've never been a friend of Shimano. Never been a fan of them. They make good reels. They're good, solid reels. I know that, but they just have never felt like how much they charge. And then when I picked up 13 and I started using them, I realized that these reels, they're not the greatest in the world, but they are less than what they feel like. So that's why I pedal 13 Fishing, is because they are great deals. They're not the best in the world, but they're a great deal on rods and reels. What's a good color for baits for black colored water? I'm assuming you mean tannic water. Anything that's solid, bright yellows, yellow and black, or even whites. And then blacks for soft plastics, green pumpkins, nothing that you can see light through is usually what I go with. So, any more Friday Night Lives at Westbrook? Of course. We're going to be trying to do one a month, maybe one every other month. I know there's another, matter of fact, they might be on here. I know Bucks Island Marine over in Gaston, Alabama wants me to do one over there. We're going to work out the details and probably do it on their grand opening of their new tackle shop that's over there. So, yeah, we're going to do that definitely. When are you going to do a collaboration with Matt and Tim? I need to get back on the phone with them. Last I talked to Tim was at the Classic, and so I'm sure Matt's doing a lot better than he was back then. But I just got to make sure. It may not be this fall just because of all that's happened, but we'll get to talking again. So, and this replacing my air conditioner today probably set me back quite a bit too. So we'll have to see. Let's see. Ever consider making some crappie fishing videos? I know you like to fish for them. My granddad has an old co-worker with 2 crappie ponds. We've pulled crappie bigger than your hand out of there. Man, I love to catch big crappie. I've got to learn the lakes around here before I'm able to really put together a good crappie video. I might document that a little bit as much as I can. But I spent a lot of time on the electronics. When I get my new boat, get my electronics set up, I might have to start doing that. That might be a better way of teaching you guys how to read some electronics, is to use crappie for an example. So, What is that, Andy? Ever thought of putting your Friday Night Live on podcast to listen to later? That's funny you said that. We've talked about it. You might see a Flukemastr podcast here in the near future. Me and Scott talked about it. Scott loves you. You guys saw him on Friday Night Live at Westbrook last week. He runs his mouth. He's really good. He's good on radio. I mean, he's got a radio voice anyway. And me and him might partner up and do some podcasts. Have some good guests. Like I said, I'm good friends with a lot of people in the industry, so we might be able to put something together. It's just more work for me, and I've just got to make sure that I'm able to do that and still continue to make videos, which I'm sure I can. There's only 24 hours in the day, so we should be able to do that. How much do hurricane floods affect feeding patterns? It just pushes the bass shallow. Floods, any kind of floods. I've been to a lot of different floods and fished a lot of flooded water. My best pattern, my favorite pattern in flooded water is the concrete picnic table pattern. I've caught a lot of fish under flooded picnic tables. But anyway, so they just pushes them shallow and they start looking for worms and things coming out of the ground that don't normally get into their water system. So it's pretty neat. Here's a couple to go towards the air conditioner. Thanks for the $2, Bradley. I appreciate it, man. You're awesome. Let's see. Jacob Wynn asked me if I'm going to the Classic in Knoxville. Yes, I have not missed a Classic in 11 years. And I don't plan on missing that one. So I should be there, and I'll be there all 3 days. Let's see. If you can get a podcast on Spotify, there's a huge market for it, in my opinion. Yes, I've looked into that. I've actually done a lot of research on podcasts. I know what equipment I need to get. I know where I need to put it. I know how to post it. Everything else. Everything's set up to do it. I just have to get to that point. And I'm not really going to look into starting it until later on in the winter. That way I have all winter to make the mistakes and get it done right. So, see, tips for not getting crankbaits caught in the grass. Actually, it's not a bad thing to get them caught in the grass. Just when you get them caught in the grass, you just drop your rod really quick to a slack line and pop it to a tight line. So you're ripping that crankbait out of the grass, and then wait for like a split second, because if there's a bass sitting right there, he's going to bite it. It's a great way to get bit when they don't want to bite. Thanks for all the comments on the podcast, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm reading all of them. When is the Knoxville Classic? It's going to be in March. You have to look it up online, but it's been somewhere around mid to late March. Need help last 2 fishing trips. I've had bass swimming around my kayak. Thoughts, I threw square bills, spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, topwater, even put a Ned rig, and nothing. Any advice? If you see them, they typically see you, which is not always a good thing. It's rarely a good thing. The best thing to do is back way off or leave for about 30 minutes and come back to that area and then fish that area with nice long casts is what I would do. Let's see. When are you doing anything around New Jersey? New York, Pennsylvania area would be great to meet up with you. I'm not sure yet. I might get back up there for that kayak deal that I did this spring, but I don't know. I'm going to have to make a northwest or northeast swing eventually. I need to bust out about 100 videos between now and next spring, and get the money flow a little bit more to get you guys to start talking about me more to your friends and all this other stuff. We'll talk about that later. Start promoting Flukemastr a little bit more, and you'll see me doing a lot more traveling. What do you think of the Cast King Royal Legend bait cast reel, and how would you set it up? I've only seen it in pictures. To be honest with you, on a personal thing, I'm not a fan of Cast King, but it has nothing to do with their equipment. It has everything to do with how they treated a friend of mine when she left their pro staff. And so I wasn't very happy with it. There's a dear close friend of mine. I consider her like a sister, and they did not treat her well when she decided to leave and go to another company. And so I kind of lost all confidence in them as a company, or as a company themselves. But I have not. I can't say anything about their equipment, at least not now. Let's see. Alec, you're better off asking Debo. Oh. My personal best is 9 pounds. Guess what I caught it on? A fluke. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it. Yep, I was right. Any suggestions around North Georgia for a fishing camping trip? Where am I going next week? I think I'm going to Chattooga. Is it the Chattooga River or Notley? I can't remember. I grew up fishing the creeks up in North Georgia, and I love to trout fish up there. But anything up in North Georgia, Carter's Lake is really good. Got big spotted bass. That wouldn't be a bad one. If you're going to go next week, just about every campground is full. I actually had to freaking rent a cabin in order to get a place to sleep for the family. I wanted to go camping, but all the campsites were booked. Is the big rig from Jackson more stable than the SS-127? No. And the only reason I can say that is I was doing a demo day in Tennessee a few months ago, and a guy came out and he flipped a 127 on purpose. I watched him do it. He grabbed hold of the handle and he rolled that sucker. And I watched it and I'm like, what in the world's he doing? Because you could tell he did it on purpose. And about 15 minutes later, I looked over and he did the same thing to a big rig. And so I walked up to him after he got done with the big rig and I said, dude, what'd you do that for? He said, I just wanted to see which one was more stable. I said, well, what'd you find out? He said, that Bonafide was a lot harder to flip than the big rig. And I'm like, wow. And I loved the big rig when I rode it. It's not a bad kayak. It's super stable. I did not expect the Bonafide SS-127 to be more stable than the big rig. So there's your answer. Would you say, Sarah Collins, good to have you on here, Sarah. Would you say lipless crankbaits are decent for early fall? I plan on doing some bank fishing soon at a small pond nearby, and I'm wondering what baits would be the best in this cloudy, overcast weather. Yes, typically more into the mid-fall. Lipless get pretty good, but they're what I would throw is typically is a spinnerbait and a buzzbait in early fall. They should be just fine. But any kind of moving bait, reaction bait will work really good. So do I like the 75 plopper? I don't have one yet. But they look really, really good. Gene, you think all the rain we received this last week, along with the temp drop in mid-Tennessee area, would bring the bass to more shallow waters from the deep? It'll bring a percentage of them shallow. It's not going to bring them all. There still will be a concentration of bass deep, but it will bring a lot of them shallow, mainly because because there's more water, the current pushing through the rivers will push them up on these points, and then they'll realize that the water up there is a little cooler, and they can stay up there longer, and they'll kind of stay up and mill around up in those shallows. So the shallow is relative. It could be 12 feet, it could be 5 feet, it could be 6 inches. Depends on the watercolor. Let's see, Colin caught it on a worm. Hey Gene, any advice for fishing the Alabama rig in the transition or early fall? I don't fish it in the fall. I rarely fish it at all. I only fish it in the dead of winter when they're on deep points and deep structure. All right, guys, I'm gonna call it quits here in just a minute. I'm losing my voice, but I'm gonna give you two more questions. Kendall Arnold, hey man, how you doing? I follow Kendall on Instagram. I give you kayak guys props. I've been fishing out of one for a year, and I just can't get used to it like I want to. Nothing to do with the yak I have. I just can't get used to it somehow. You know what I found, and I made that transition from boat to kayak, and it's tackle storage and tackle management and space management, which is really, really hard. And always realizing that you got to get things out of your way when you get bit. If you get bit, you got to get that paddle out of your way. You got to tuck it in up front and get it out of the way. You got to get your net ready and everything else. And it's just more space management and more confined. And don't cast directly straight out in front of the kayak. Cast to 45-degree angles and 90-degree angles. Learn how to do a little sidearm cast this way. Get a kayak you can stand up in. It may be because you got a kayak that you're not comfortable in. If you don't have a kayak if you have a kayak you can't stand up in, you're going to be hurting. So that's what I would do. I would focus on what your kayak does for you, and if it doesn't do what you need it to do, you might want to start looking for another one and go test them out before you buy them. Go to a shop that lets you test them out, and that's what I'd recommend. So you guys are awesome. My voice is just about gone, and I need to go and see my wife. I haven't seen her since this morning. But thanks for joining me. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody's questions. For those of you who donated, absolutely love you for it. Thank you very, very much. And I will see you next Friday night, probably from right here. So take it easy. I'm going to go to bed, and I'm going to go drive 2.5 hours to Lake Lanier tomorrow morning and do a kayak seminar. So we'll see you.